Okay, year 11, we are going to get started on some Blender, and you might be new to this interface because we didn't actually use Blender 2.8 last year. I gave some of you, I think, the option to use it, and you may have played around with it, but this is now the official version of Blender, and they've made some big changes to it. So this video here is going to be pretty simple. You will have created this object that we're going to create before, and we're just going to do it using the new version of Blender. So when it loads up for the very first time, it's probably going to ask you what shortcut keys do you want, and you can leave it all at the default settings. So it should say left click select. That's going to be a big change and a good one, I think. But what you want to change is the one that says what the space bar does. You want to change that so that it goes to search. You'll see if I push space on mine, it brings up this little search panel so I can search for anything in Blender. And it will bring up the option for me here. So normally spacebar plays the animation, but we're not going to be doing any animation at this stage. We were going to be, but then due to loss of time, we're going to have to just focus on some modeling for now. What we're going to do here is we're going to left click on this cube and we're going to push X to delete the cube. Okay, so that is a shortcut key, X for delete. We're going to delete that cube. Then we're going to add in a mesh. We're going to add in a cylinder mesh. Now when we add in the cylinder mesh, don't start moving it around at the moment. I'll get to the shortcut keys. Hopefully it'll jog your memory from last year. We're going to change this down here. We're going to click on the little button that says add cylinder, and we're going to change the vertices down to 10, like that. We're going to change the radius. You can change this. You can hold control and move it. Oh no, you don't want to hold control. We'll change it to about 0.25, 0.26, somewhere around there, and change the depth, bring that up a little bit like that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to create a kind of a replica of the Buster Sword, if you know what that is. I'm going to bring that up a little bit more. I'll just look for it here. I just had to figure out how to reset Blender there. So let's go and have a look at creating a Buster Sword. If I type Buster Sword, and let's have a look. Okay, so this here is a pretty straightforward design, and we'll have a look at an easy version of it. That one there looks good. Okay, so we want to get this hilt done first. I'm going to leave this here and I'll come back to it and refer to it as we go on. So we want to get that hilt done first so we actually can make that depth a little bit longer. Around about that long looks good. Okay, now if we go into edit mode, if you remember how to get into edit mode, it's the tab key. We want to rotate to the bottom of this. Doesn't matter which one you think is the bottom. This is the bottom here. Z should be up there, so if you've accidentally rotated upside down, make sure that the Z axis is up over there. And we want to go to face mode. Now this has changed, it's at the top here now instead of being down the bottom, and you can click on face mode, which is that one there, and you can click on that face. Now we're going to hit E to extrude it, but instead of extruding it, we're going to hit S and scale it out just a little bit, then hit E again to bring it down. That's going to give us that kind of shape that happens at the bottom here. Okay, I might bring that back a little bit, G and then Z, bring it up. Now this bit here, I'm going to hit I and inset it. So I will inset, bring that in a little bit, then hit E to extrude that out. So that gives us that shape at the bottom there, which looks, I guess, a bit like that. All the textures on here we'll look at later. We're going to do this bit up the top here now. So we'll switch back to Blender. I'll go to the other side and I'll select this. I'm going to hit E and then S immediately and scale it out. Then I'm going to hit E and bring it up, and then I'm going to hit E again and scale it out. Then I'll hit E and bring that up. Okay, so that's going to give me that end there. Now I can get out of edit mode here. I'm going to get out of edit mode. I'm going to go straight into object mode, and I'm going to add in a cube. Now this cube I'm going to bring up higher. So the only major difference between Blender 2.7 2.8 that's going to affect you is the left clicking select, and I've reset it so well, I wanted you to reset it so that when you hit space, you search for stuff. There are a few differences. There is no merge, I can't remember what it was called. But the thing where you like remove doubles, that's what it was called, remove doubles. That doesn't exist anymore. Instead, you have to merge based on distance, and you just make the distance really small and it removes doubles. But we'll get to those things later. I am in object mode. Notice that I didn't add another cube to this one here. In fact, I could go back into edit mode for this, and I could add a cube here. Okay, and that is fine. It is good to do that. What I do not want to do is start just endlessly extruding all these different objects. So I'm going to work with separate objects for now. Add mesh cube. I'm going to bring this cube up, GZ. And then I'm going to go straight into edit mode. I'm going to scale this in along the X. So S and then Y, along the Y. S and then Y. And make it so that it sits like that. I'll bring it up a little bit more, G and then Z. Just so it kind of just sits right there. And I can see how wide that is, and I will hit S and then scale this along the X now, probably about that much. And I'm going to select that top face, and I can turn on this transform tool if you don't remember all the shortcut keys, and you can use this to scale things. Now if we go and have a look at this sword here, it's got like an inset around here. So let's go and do that. We're going to, I'll play Gibbles 2 later. We'll bring that all the way down, and we're going to inset this top bit. Now, if you get a funny inset where it doesn't inset equally, that's because you've done the scaling in object mode instead of edit mode. So to fix that, you'll have to go back into object mode, click object, apply, rotation and scale. Then you can go back to edit mode, do the inset, and it will work normally. So I'm going to inset that like that. I'm going to extrude it up. Then I'm going to hit E, S, and bring it out. Now, notice that that doesn't work properly, which is unfortunate. I think I can extrude. Why does that not work? E, and then that scale goes, doesn't scale out equally. That's an interesting way to do that. Let me think, how would I actually do this? Okay, I've got it. All right, I'm going to hit E and I'm going to bring it up the distance that I want. And then I'm going to select these edges. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, now I want to extrude these out. This here is the extrude tool, but if I hold it down, I get extrude region, which I don't want. But I get this second one, which is extrude along normals, which I do want. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to extrude along normals, so I can click that and kind of get this little handle. Oops, I didn't mean to do that twice. Just pull it out until it kind of matches. I'm just going to go visually for this, the bit down the bottom, so I get this here. All right, so we've got that there. Now in here, there are actually some little spheres, so let's go and put those in. This is going to be really easy. I'm going to go back into object mode, add mesh. I'm going to use an icosphere for this. I'm just going to use the default icosphere, GZ. I'm going to scale it up to here. And I'm going to move it across, GX, move it across to there, scale it down so that, actually an icosphere is probably not the best option here because we only see a little bit of it. Let's see what happens when I shade smooth. Yeah, it doesn't quite look right. I'm going to delete that. And let's go ahead and add mesh UV sphere. I'm going to turn the segments down on this so I don't need to have that many. I'll turn it down to 16 and 10. And I'm going to go up to here. GZ, bring it up to about center there. GX, bring it to there, scale it down. Now I'm actually going to do kind of two sides of this. So I'm going to scale it down a little bit more and hit GY, bring it out to about there. Okay, and maybe GZ, get it down to where it goes, a little bit smaller. Now what I could do to make this more efficient is actually delete all the parts that I'm not going to see, which I won't do now. But just be aware that I could make this model way more efficient by doing that. Instead, what I'm going to do is apply a modifier. So this modifier, I'm going to add a modifier. It's going to be an array modifier. I'm going to set it to be, not 10, oops. How many have we got? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5. And I'm going to turn the offset here up until it roughly matches, and I'll kind of move it GZ so that that one's in the center. And I'm just going to go visually. Then I'm going to close that modifier. I'm going to add another modifier, which is going to be an array. This one is going to be count 2. Except instead of there, I am going to modify it the other direction, like that. Okay, and I'll get it pretty close. It's about there. I could move this one back a little bit, GY, hold shift to be more precise. Okay, and then I've got that. So I've got this here done, and I've only done it with one model. So if I change this at all of them will be changed. So that's quite cool. Oops, I don't want to be in wireframe. That is Z, by the way. I want to be in object mode, and we want to select that. Okay, now for each of these, I'm going to right click and click Shade Smooth, and done. Down here as well, Shade Smooth on this, Shade Smooth, and then add a modifier called Edge Split. And I'm going to turn the angle up until the shape goes smooth, but still leaves the actual edges there, which should be about 40 degrees. Okay, so that's looking good. Now we're going to add that blade. So this is the easy part. Add, mesh, cube, bring this cube up, GZ, bring it to about there, and go into edit mode before you start scaling things. Turn on that transform tool. I'll do that with this here, the transform tool. Scale it like that, get the red bit. And if I look at this sword here, it doesn't have much of a hilt. We're going to make this part later. And cool. All right, so we'll go up quite a ways with this top bit. I'll actually just grab that top face and pull it up. Once again, I'm just going to kind of visual it. Oops, I didn't mean to scale that. How far did I pull that? That looks about right there. Then I'm going to get, if I look at this here, it kind of goes at an angle there. But I'm going to pull that. We'll do a ring cut, sorry. So that was Control R to add a ring cut to about there. Then I'm going to get this edge here. So I'm in edge mode at the top. I'm going to get this edge and I'm going to pull it down to about here. Now this is where I want to actually merge these. So in the old version I could kind of go remove doubles, put them in the right place, and that would work. But what I need to do here is, actually I should be able to do a ring cut first. Let's just go back and add that ring cut going down before I do anything else. No, I don't want to do that. I will pull that down so that it kind of sits pretty much exactly where the other one is. Then I'm going to hit A. A will select everything. Type space and type merge. Merge by distance. Now I may need to turn this up, and you'll know it's done it when it says remove 2 vertices, which will be these two here. Okay, so it's turned 4 vertices into 2, it's merged 2 vertices, and that is done. Now the next thing I need to do is a cut along here, but this shape isn't quite, you can't do a cut on a 3-sided face. It doesn't know which side to cut it to. So what I need to do here is I need to do a cut here, and then I need to hit K and cut up to here, this corner. Hit enter. Now I need to repeat that on the other side. K, click there, and click in that corner. It will go kind of a different color when it matches. It will sort of snap to it, but it's a little bit fiddly, and hit enter. Now that gets me this shape here. Not quite perfect, I'm not going to worry about that down there. We're going to go simple. Now I'm going to select these edges, edge mode, select that edge, select that. I'm holding shift as I select these blade edges. And then I'm going to scale them in using the green tool. Scale them in like that. Okay, so we get that blade. I don't want to scale them in. I don't want to merge these points. Okay, I do not want to merge these points. I just want to keep them kind of like that. That's fine. I just want to get them pretty close, but not merge them. I could merge them, it's not a problem, but I won't in this case. And in fact, at the top there, I don't actually want to change this point here, but I will scale these in. So I don't think I need to select these edges. Yeah, if I don't select those edges, oops, and then I scale them in, that's what I want. That's better. Make sure they don't overlap. That way it's still kind of chunky up there and the whole back of the blade is good. Okay, so that's what I want there. So I've got that kind of shape. The last thing is adding this bit down here. So it's going to be pretty simple. Add mesh cube. I'm going to bring that up. Notice I don't change the shape of it until I go into edit mode. Then I can change the shape freely. S, X, S, Y, scaling along those things there. Looks like it's a little bit taller than that. So I'll grab this top part, pull that up. Looks like I only grab the edge. I want to grab the face that's there. Pull that up. And might grab those two faces, scale them in a little bit. Okay, now there's one last tool, really handy tool. I'm going to select those two edges just there, and I'll put this into isolation mode, which is / on the keyboard on the right hand side. And I'm just going to hit Control B and bevel these edges just slightly. It looks like on here that they're slightly beveled, so I'm going to bevel those edges really slightly. All good. Okay, / on the keyboard will bring me back to here. Now we need to add those Materia slots, and that is going to be probably the hardest part, but it's not actually that difficult. What we do is we're going to go add, mesh, cylinder. I am going to turn the cylinder up to about 16 vertices. Now the rest of it doesn't matter for now. Okay, I'll just reset this back to 1, and that's all good. Okay, so 16, 1. Then I've just closed that, it's fine. I want to rotate this on its side, so RX 90. Done. I'm going to bring this up, GZ, bring it to about there. I'm going to scale this down so that it's kind of the right size, like that, and hit S and scale it out. It doesn't matter how far out I scale it. We're essentially going to use this to cut a tool in 2 of the shapes. So I'm going to select this shape, and I'm going to add a modifier to it called a Boolean. And this is going to be, I think, the difference, but we'll check it out in a sec. Now we can use this paint dropper tool to select the other object, the cylinder. Okay, now I can hide the cylinder and see that did work. Okay, so I'll just undo that hide. That worked. Okay, so that's got that on there. We're just going to leave the cylinder there for now. And then we're going to select this object, and we're going to add a modifier, Boolean. And we're going to select the cylinder as well. And it's going to be different. Now we can hide that cylinder. We do not want to delete the cylinder. We can hide that cylinder, and we've got that shape. Now we do need to, we probably should just scale, oops, scale this in. What? Oh, whoops, my mistake. We're actually going to apply these. So I'm going to hit apply to that, and I'm going to scale that in just a tiny amount, just so I don't get that shimmery effect that was happening in there. Now I actually want to go back to here, and I'm going to actually make a duplicate of that, but I'll go into, I'll just make Shift D, hit Z, move it up to about there. I might add 3 of them. This can be an upgraded Buster Sword. In fact, I don't need to do that. I can add a modifier, which is an array modifier, and go 3 and change this to be on the Z axis. Nope. In this case, it's the Y axis. I rotated the object, if you remember. Okay, so that's pretty good there. I'll move this down, GZ, move it down like that. Make sure, okay, I've got that there, got that there, hide those, and then that is done. Now I'm actually going to put some stuff in here in the next video, but for now we've actually got that Buster Sword done. The blade is, this hilt is probably a bit long. I can easily fix that by adjusting the size of the blade. I'll go into wireframe mode. Z will put me in wireframe mode. Select the top of this, that's B to draw a box, and then pull that up and go back into solid mode. That actually looks more to scale, that kind of size there. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to save that now, and I should have been saving it as I went. And then in the next video, we'll look at adding some materials to this so that it looks nice, and how to actually render it. We're going to use the real-time renderer in Eevee, which is in Blender, which is called Eevee, which renders it like it was in a game engine. So you can kind of see what it might look like in a game engine with proper real-time lighting. If you remember last year, we did cycles rendering. It took ages to do one single render. New version of Blender has a really cool renderer, which is much quicker. Doesn't give the same realistic effects that cycles can, but we're not aiming for realism here. We're just aiming for it to look cool.